that are regular viewers of our Facebook Live. And thank you also to those of you who are joining us for the first time today to talk about an update on the COVID-19 virus. Yesterday, we extended the stay-at-home order for a few more weeks. We are going to be looking at it continually and at least weekly to see when that order might be able to be lifted or partially lifted. But in no event will we'll be back to you, is the way I should say this. We will be back to you for sure by May the 15th, mid-May. You may know that the governor recently extended the statewide stay-at-home order until May the 4th, I believe it is, 3rd or 4th. And so our order has been extended without an end date because we think it's so important for us to continually evaluate the stay-at-home order. Right now, we have not hit the peak yet in cases in St. Louis. We were fearful that the trajectory would be like this. Through our efforts to stay at home, the trajectory has leveled off a little bit, but the peak is not going to be in the St. Louis region until about this time next week. Next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday is what the current predictions are showing. So at that point in time, when we do hit, we hope, the peak number of cases, then ideally or hopefully those cases will level off and begin going down the other side of this curve. And as that happens, we'll be able to make reevaluations in whether or not we have to continue the stay-at-home order. There are two new things in the stay-at-home order. They're not huge, but I think they're noteworthy. One is that the stay-at-home order requires businesses who are essential, who have been deemed essential, such as grocery stores, drugstores, that sort of thing. It does require them to provide PPE for their employees. In most cases, that's going to be a mask or gloves, I should say. But we are asking businesses to do that at this point in time. The second thing we're asking is that we're asking all of you to wear your cloth mask. I've got mine here. When you go out in public. It is extra protection for other people who are around you, and of course, protection for yourself. You all know, if you've been watching this over the last month, that this recommendation has evolved over the last few weeks. We've learned a lot day in and day out with this COVID-19 pandemic. And so things are still changing. And so those are two new things that are in the order that was issued yesterday to extend the stay-at-home order. On a bright note here, some of you may have seen this. We put it out on social media a few minutes ago. A couple of hours ago, a big truck, semi-truck from Anheuser-Busch pulled up, and they have made hand sanitizer. Let me make sure you can see this. And they've made hand sanitizer for first responders, police, fire. Our police department has some, our fire department has some, county police has it, other county departments have it. They are making it, they actually made it in California, and they are shipping it across the country. And so we got ours today. I'm going to use this hand sanitizer, but I'm definitely going to keep this bottle for I guess you'd call it a souvenir, because here's our hometown company. And I know they have operations all over the world, but still we claim them as our hometown company here. And thank you to Anheuser-Busch for making this hand sanitizer and for providing it to first responders who need it. A couple of other things before I go to questions. One is we yesterday published new demographic data online. I mentioned this on Wednesday, I think it was, when we talked last, that we were going to publish the new race-based demographic data. We have done that. The question is always, and I've seen some of this on social media, well, why didn't we do it before now? We did it as soon as we had all the information available. And the reason we did not do it sooner than this is that when we get test results in from all kinds of places, from the state, but also from many private labs, a lot of those labs were not recording the race data at the time they did the test. They recorded age and they recorded male, female, gender, but they were not recording race. So we had to circle back with those people or those individuals and do our best to actually compile the race data. Now, since that time, now folks are reporting race data as they go, but initially that was not happening. So at any rate, it took our epidemiologists a bit of time to record the race for everyone so that we could put that data out there. It's on our website. It's really pretty interesting. As I think I mentioned the other day, of the total number of cases, this was yesterday's data, there were 71% were African American. Of the individuals who were positive were African Americans. So we know what the health disparities are in this country, and the result from the COVID testing just continues to prove that out. So we all have to take the steps necessary to have healthcare, better healthcare, and more trust in the healthcare system from everyone, so that everyone can get the care that they need. So that is online. Just go to the city's website, stlouis-mo.gov. It's right on the homepage. Click on the COVID data, and you'll find it. The last thing I want to talk a little bit about, because I'm being asked about this all the time, and that is, how do we get back to work? How do we turn our economy back on? And to be honest, it is a question that the whole country is struggling with. I think at one point we thought it might be a V, it went down like this and maybe it would come back like straight up. Most people don't think it's going to be a V anymore. We think it's going to be more of an inverted, maybe bell-shaped curve. But how do we begin doing that? I think it's not, some places will turn some businesses back on earlier than others, simply because some locations are still have many more cases than others. So we are thinking about that. We're trying to outline, and we're looking at what's coming out of other cities that are ahead of us and what's coming out of other states, because we know that cities and states are leading the way on this. We also know that it is going to be somewhat dependent on testing and the availability of testing. And I know you're tired of hearing about testing. I'm tired of talking about testing, quite honestly, because we just don't have the supply of testing that we need yet. We have more than we had a couple of weeks ago, but we don't have the supply that we need yet. We do have 5 testing sites in the city of St. Louis, including the BJC site at Clayton and Boyle, including the site at 1717 Biddle, the site at 5471 Martin Luther King, the site on Riverview. This week we're opening a site on 3900 block of South Broadway, roughly Broadway and Jefferson. It's an Affinia site. So we do have testing sites. We're limited, though, with the number of test kits, swabs, and test kits that we have. We are looking forward to getting more test kits soon, we hope. We thought they would be here this week. They're not. And we're also looking forward to new kinds of tests, meaning the tests that show whether or not you have already had the virus. That's a serology test. We've got a little
sorry to
computer
interrupt
things popping up on the computer. So everyone in this country needs more testing, both the diagnostic testing called PCR, the serology testing to see whether or not you've already had it. We're waiting for cartridges for the Abbott rapid testing machine. So we need that, and we need it as soon as possible. So does the rest of the country. So with that, those are just a couple of highlights that I wanted to visit with you about before we take questions. I think we have some questions already, and we had some people who sent in questions early. So Jacob, questions.
Yes. So this is a question that someone actually just wrote in. Vicky is watching.
Hi, Vicky.
Good question here. How does the availability and the expansion of testing impact the rate at which we can reopen the local economy?
Thanks. Your question was very succinctly put, and that's what I was trying to talk about a minute ago. The more testing we have, the more information we have, I think the more rapidly we will be able to reopen the economy. We will either know who has the virus, who's been exposed to the virus through contact tracing or who has had the virus. And so that's all instrumental to us being able to reopen our economy.
Some people didn't catch the beginning and are asking for you to just succinctly summarize the two new, are they recommendations or requirements in the new stay-at-home order related to masks and PPE for essential businesses?
Thank you for that question. It is a requirement that essential businesses that remain open provide PPE, appropriate PPE for their employees. That's a requirement. It is a recommendation that you, when you go out in public and go to the store or drugstore or whatever, that you wear a cotton mask, a cloth mask. You can have a fancy one like this, which was made for me by the Fashion Fund, or you can use a bandana or something that you have at home just to cover your nose and mouth.
Charles is watching and has a question about the PPE requirement. It's been a struggle, obviously, for a lot of people to get PPE. Mm-hmm. Where should an essential business look to do that?
So PPE is becoming more available, has become more available, I should say. So I believe at this point in time, you can find masks. There are all kinds of different masks out there online. You don't need the N95 or the KN95. Your employees can wear a cloth mask or a surgical mask, but they should wear masks. And gloves in some industries are advised.
A couple of questions about the governor's stay-at-home order extension. It ends before the city's new one. Mm-hmm. So why aren't you in line with the state and doing May 3rd?
So Missouri is a big state. There's 114 counties in Missouri. Some counties have one case or two cases. Some counties, like our region right here, St. Louis City, St. Louis County, and St. Charles, account for 2/3 of the cases in the whole state. So we have the most cases right here in this region, City, County, and St. Charles. At the end of the day, yesterday, the state had over 5,000 cases. We had over 3,000 cases right here in this region. So that's the reason that it's not a one size fits all. You know probably that we put our stay-at-home order in place earlier than Governor Parson put it in place for the rest of the state. I just was on a call with Governor Parson this morning. We talked through this. He's in complete support of the St. Louis region having the stay-at-home order. Kansas City similarly has a stay-at-home order in place. Springfield has a stay-at-home order, but it's not a one-size-fits-all.
A question from our friends over at St. Louis Public Radio.
Hi, St. Louis Public Radio. Love your programming.
Along the lines of Governor Parson's stay-at-home order extension, he announced 4 pillars that which the state could reopen their economy. Expanded testing, PPE monitoring, expansion of healthcare facilities, predicting where the virus can go. Do you think that those are realistic goals and something that we can achieve in this short amount of time?
I think, it's when you use the word achieve in this short amount of time, it's not like we're going to be done. We're not going to be able to check the box and go on, but we can begin to make progress on those fronts. And so I think that's the important thing here. I think the other important thing here is that we're going to look to areas around the country and see what works. We won't hit our peak for almost another week, most likely. And so we've got to begin to come down the other side of the curve here. And with that information, with testing information, we hope more testing information, I think we can begin to reopen parts of our economy. Whether it's office workers, perhaps, it's folks who work outside who can easily be 6 feet away from one another and wear a mask. Many of those folks are already still working. So it is, it's a process here, and it's going to go on for a while, I think, until we either have a vaccine or until the virus goes away.
What does reopening the city of St. Louis and the city of St. Louis economy look like to you?
So I think, and I talked a little bit about this, it's in stages. It's first outdoor jobs. we're in conversations about what that means for what it means next, maybe for schools. But then it's office jobs, perhaps, where you can be 6 feet apart, where you can socially distance. Um, it's at some point along here, it's restaurants with some changes, with maybe fewer tables, less occupancy, perhaps. Uh, and then at some point in time, what we're struggling to figure out is, well, what does it look like when we are willing to attend huge gatherings, thousands of people? What does that end up looking like? So that's all evolving, and it's evolving around the country. And I think St. Louis is evolving our ideas as well. One of the things I will say is that I have been in regular conversations with Dr. Sam Page and County Executive Ellman, but we're trying to do all this together. I think it's for the residents of our region here, particularly St. Louis City and County, that boundary doesn't matter to many people. And so we need to do something that's consistent, and we need to do something that is safe. We don't want to lift this stay-at-home order too early, because if we lift it too early, we'll be back at it and we will have lost what we've gained so far. And we have been successful so far in tamping down the spread of the virus. So we don't want to lose that, and we don't want to have a big second wave. So that's where we are.
Is someone going to be able to have a wedding in September?
I hope so. I don't know the answer to that question, if you want to know the solid truth, but I certainly hope so. And if you're getting married in September, I would say keep planning.
Aaron is watching and would like to know what's something you can say to keep up people's spirits as you extend the stay-at-home order, require them to stay home even longer, as people are already sort of grappling with cabin fever.
I know that. Well, one of the things I would say is that don't forget our parks are open. Get out of your house, go for a walk in the park, or around the block, whatever works for you. I hear from people on both sides of the spectrum, people that have been ordered to stay at home are anxious to get back to work. And many people are like, oh gosh, I never thought I'd be saying, yeah, I'm ready for the weekend to be over. But they're anxious to get back to work. And people that have been working through this whole crisis, which is a whole lot of people, they're tired. They're stressed too. Their stress is different than the people that have had to stay home. But this is hard on everybody. I think as St. Louisans, we should be really proud of the job that we have done thus far in tamping down the spread. But I also want to ask all of you that are staying home, when you see an officer, a firefighter, the person checking you out at Schnucks or at the grocery store, thank those people, because they've been working extra hard through all of this. Along with the guy who picks up your trash. If you live in the city, you probably don't know him because he's in a big truck, a one-man truck. But his job is very important to get the tongs under that dumpster and lift it up, dump that into the. So all of those people are performing very important jobs. Dispatchers, people that are at our airport, they're still working at the airport. Airport's still open, and some people have said, well, why is the airport still open? There are only fewer than 1,000 people a day that are flying out of our airport now. But don't forget, those planes also carry cargo. That's how some of your masks are getting here. That's how some of our PPE is getting here. So we live in a complicated logistical environment here. So for those of you staying home, thank you. Go for a walk. FaceTime your friends. Check in on your neighbors. See if you can pick up groceries for an older person in your neighborhood when you go to the store. So relieve your stress in that way. For those of you that are working, thank you. I know that you are under a lot of stress also.
Trisha is watching and has a very good question. Can you talk about how many people that you know of have actually recovered from COVID-19 in the city? And is that something that we could explore posting in our data portal as well?
So we don't know that, and I wish that we did. Anecdotally, a very high percentage of people recover from COVID-19. I will tell you that among city employees, we've had a number of people, we've had positive cases. We've had about 30 cases, positive cases among city employees. Now we have 6,000 city employees. We have 11, I think it is, police officers who have been positive, 3 of whom are already back at work. And I tell you that information anecdotally to say that most people do recover from this, but it can still be extremely serious, which is why we have had 28 deaths in the city of St. Louis alone, 50 some deaths in the county, and 100 and some deaths statewide. So the difference between this, and people have asked me this question, and if you get the flu or something like that, is that there's no medicine to prevent you from getting this, like there is a flu shot, which works more than it doesn't work. But there's also no treatment for this right now. And so that is the real difference. It's highly contagious. There's nothing to keep you from getting it, and there's not much treatment if you do get it. So.
What is something that a member of the public could do to report a non-compliant business? There are reports of some beauty shops in parts of the city that continue to operate.
Beauty shops need to be closed. That is way too close. You can tell by looking at my hair. I could really use my hairdresser right now, but I'm not going to do that until it's safe to do it. I may be doing a little trimming on my own, but I'm not going to go to anybody. And so if you need to report a business that's operating that is not an essential business, you should call 622-4800, 622-4800, or you can report it online through Twitter if you're on Twitter, which is STLCSB, STL at STLCSB, or you can actually report it online just through the city's website. So there are multiple ways to report it. We have visited with a number of businesses. Our first approach is to talk to the business, get them into compliance. Our second approach is to send them a cease and desist letter. So we have to know about it, though, so you're welcome to inform us.
So a couple of questions along the lines of the stay-at-home order extension applying to things that it applied to before, like rent, the eviction moratorium, jury duty, the courts. Mm-hmm. Do all of those things now extend with your new stay-at-home order?
They don't all automatically extend, but they will probably be extended by their own jurisdiction. For example, it's the state that decides whether or not to close courts or not, and the 22nd Judicial Circuit is closed. As a result, our municipal courts are closed. We expect that they will follow along with this stay-at-home order in the city of St. Louis because they're looking at the same data that we are. The eviction notice, evictions are stayed. In other words, you can't be evicted right now. That's also a court order that we requested from the court, and we're requesting an extension of that order right now. Other things like no water shutoffs. That is extended. That was done indefinitely until further notice because we own our own water department in the city. And Laclede Gas and Ameren, not Laclede Gas, they're Spire now, and Ameren are both also not doing shutoffs right now. So most of that is going hand in hand.
Erin is asking for a clarification. She's watching and wants to know if parks remain open to pedestrian traffic.
Yes.
Very much so, right?
Yes, parks are open to pedestrian traffic. Now, what's closed in a park? The playground's closed, the courts are closed. For example, basketball courts, tennis courts, pickleball courts, skating rinks, those are closed. But golf courses, they're closed. So, yes, parks are open. Go take a walk.
And should people wear, Tina's asking, should people wear a mask if you're going out to walk the dog or go for a run in Forest Park? Or if you're visiting those parks, which we're allowed to do, is that a time to wear a mask?
That's a good time to wear a mask. Definitely wear the mask if you go to the grocery store. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep coughing here. I don't know about you all, but there are so many allergens in the air right now that I'm kind of, watery eyes and coughing. So it's a good time to wear a mask when you're out in public, but definitely wear it if you go to a crowded place like the grocery store.
Are there facilities that the city is working on to increase capacity for victims of people who don't survive COVID-19?
So that's a tough question. I know many of you have seen that the county, St. Louis County, has built a large temporary morgue in Earth City. The city of St. Louis, we're making plans, if you will, in the event that we get a lot of deaths. But we have a morgue here in the city which has a capacity for 50 individuals. And then we have refrigerated trucks, and we have arrangements with funeral homes. So right now, we are very hopeful that we have enough capacity right now.
A couple of financial questions, one of which is coming from our friend Kevin Colleen at MOX. He's asking,
Hi, Kevin. Are you watching?
He's asking about the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the city budget and any expected shortfalls in revenue and how we can address that.
So it's a devastating effect on the city budget. I'll tell you that right now. It's probably a $30 million shortfall in this fourth quarter. We're not even through April yet. What is it? April 17th. So we got April, May, and June to go. We're making the best projections we can based on how much we think the earnings tax will be cut since people are out of work, how much we think sales tax will be cut since people are not going out buying nearly as much. So we think it's a very serious effect in this last quarter. And then on Wednesday of next week, the 22nd, I think it is, the Board of Estimate and Apportionment will be reviewing the city budget for 2021. That will start July 1st. Let me tell you, we're making a lot of guesses here because we just don't have all the information to know how much our revenue will be down. And so every week that goes along, we get more information, but we're mandated by charter to pass a budget by June 30th. And so there's a whole lot of steps that we are mandated to hold. And we'll know more in a month. But right now, yes, it's a devastating impact on the city budget.
Follow-up question from Elliot Davis at Fox 2 is, as a result of shortfalls, are there plans, and this has been in the news in the county with municipalities like University City and Chesterfield have all announced either layoffs or furloughs. Does the city of St. Louis anticipate doing that and following suit with its employees?
Carmen Ayala, as well as the superintendent of Community Consolidated Schools District 168 in Sauk Village, and ISB Vice Chairman Dr. Donna Leak. That's 2 million young people who would meet up with their friends in the classrooms and hallways during lunch, at sports practices, and for extracurriculars, and then go home to their families, to their guardians or whoever else that they may see when they go home, and go wherever it is that they go next, until the next morning, of course, when they do it all over again. That routine is a source of joy for so many, but it also opens up a nearly limitless opportunity for potential COVID-19 infection in a time when our healthcare workers, our researchers, our scientists, and our first responders need us to bend the curve downward. Folks, I've said time and time again, my decisions are hard ones, but they will follow the science. And the science says our students can't go back to their normal routine. Therefore, I am suspending in-person learning in schools for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. We know that there are many school districts with unique challenges, and we will work with them on any issues that may arise. I know that many have felt that this was inevitable, but trust me when I say this was not a decision that I made lightly. The importance of our schools and our in-person school days is not just a question of tradition and sentimentality, as essential as those things are. The shutting of in-person classroom time also risks a drop in instructional time, an extended window in which students can potentially experience summer learning loss, and an educational landscape in which some districts have more experience with remote learning than others. These challenges weighed heavily on me as we came to this decision, but my priority remains unchanged. How do we save the most lives during this very difficult time? The answer to that question leaves us with only one path forward. Over the last month, Illinois schools have stepped up and faced the many challenges of COVID-19 with generosity and creativity and a resolute focus on caring for students and parents and communities. And I'm confident that our schools will manage and expand the learning opportunities for all of our children who will be working from home over the coming weeks. Why am I so confident in that? Well, because school districts of every makeup across the state have been hard at work doing just that for the last month already. Like in Dallas City, a Mississippi River school district on the border with Iowa, where more than half of the students have sporadic internet access or none at all. Dr. Michelle Lee, superintendent of Dallas City Elementary School District and La Harpe Elementary School District, has teamed up with the transportation director, bus drivers, and maintenance staff to personally deliver paper packets of instructional materials to Dallas City students. Not only that, but on their route, they're delivering meals to not just their young students, but also to older students in the area high school district, homeschooled students, and younger siblings. And Dr. Lee has teamed up with a local community organization to ensure that meals keep flowing on the weekends, too. About 40 miles southeast of Dallas City and 40 miles northeast of Quincy, Superintendent Todd Fox has developed his own creative approach to supporting the Southeastern Community Unit School District, where 65% of students are low income and nearly half of families lack reliable internet. Superintendent Fox is operating with paper packets as the base of their remote learning system, so no students are left behind or left alone. Teachers log all of their communications with students and parents in an effort to support their social emotional health and cognitive development and submit their logs to the principals each week. In the words of Superintendent Fox, we're making connections to ensure our children are not stuck at home, but rather they're safe at home. South of Metro East, Redbud Community Unit School District Superintendent Jonathan Tallman has worked with local internet providers to expand free service to families in need, handing out devices to students without equipment of their own. Redbud honored its graduating seniors on social media and offered area parents the opportunity to hear directly from Redbud administrators on Facebook Live. And in Macoupin County's Staunton Community Unit School District, south of Springfield, Superintendent Dan Cox has developed a remote learning plan for his P12 student body that combines Google Classroom tools with offline continued learning kits, making the most of technology without being reliant on technology. Be assured, Illinois students are in good hands. Our teachers and our administrators are doing what they do best. They're stepping up to ensure that every child in this state receives the education that they deserve. Remote learning looks different in each of our communities, and that's encouraged. Personalization in education is a very good thing. Some rely on paper and pencil methods more than digital, and vice versa. Some rely on digital more than paper and pencil. Schools should be checking in with students every day. That can be done by logging on to an online system or by calling or by emailing. Those check-ins are not just about attendance. They help support our students through this difficult time. And to begin the work of preparing our classrooms for students' eventual return, I will be signing an executive order to modify licensing requirements for future educators who are nearly finished with their studies, like our student teachers, to ensure that this situation does not impact schools' ability to hire the qualified teachers that they need when students come back. There is $569 million to support our K-12 schools from the Federal CARES Act in response to COVID-19. Dollars that can help equip students with technology and internet access to enhance remote learning, support teachers in developing their remote instruction skills, and assist schools in continuing to provide meals to children and communities. Public school districts will receive a portion of this funding proportional to the number of low-income students that they serve, and ISB will direct the remaining funds towards supporting our districts that need those resources most. My office and the Illinois State Board of Education is recommending that any grades given during this pandemic reflect the unprecedented circumstances in which students are attempting to continue their studies. That is, grades should deliver feedback and not be used as a tool for compliance. COVID-19 is forcing far too many of our students to deal firsthand with concepts that even adults find nerve-wracking. Let's recognize that and be supportive of all of our students. Before I turn it over to Dr. Ezike, I want to offer a few thoughts to some of the people impacted by this decision. To the teachers who feel like they didn't get to say a proper goodbye to their students, my heart is with you. Know that your efforts reach your classrooms through new, creative ways, and that means the world to your students and to me. To the special education instructors who might be facing particular challenges in making meaningful remote connections with their kids, I know you're working to build a unique response to a unique situation, and I'm so grateful for that. We must continue to reach all of our students in any way that we can. To the administrators who have dedicated themselves to transforming their districts overnight and doing everything that it takes to implement remote learning, whatever it looks like in your community, thank you. Every minute of instructional time that you can keep running will make a real difference for our children. To the parents who find themselves experiencing a whirl of emotions because of this pandemic, along with some extra stress with your kids at home all day, I promise you, you will get through this. And I want to remind everyone of our Call for Calm emotional support line, a free way to anonymously connect with a caring counselor at a local community health center, mental health center. You can text TALK or HABLAR to 55-2020. Text TALK, T-A-L-K, or in Spanish, HABLAR, A-H-A-B-L-A-R, to 55-2020. To our high school seniors who are leaving this phase of their teen years behind in a way that they never expected, I know you're feeling sad about missing the rituals of senior prom and senior pranks, senior nights, and of course, graduation. Hear it from me as your governor. There's room for you to feel all those things, big and small. You will get through this too. You will talk about this for the rest of your lives, and you will go on to do amazing things. I am very, very proud of you. And to children of all ages, this is a very strange moment that you're living in. Your parents and I didn't experience something like this when we were kids, but I can tell you for sure that the hard things we did live through, we learned from. And you're going to learn from this. You're going to see what it looks like when the world comes together. What it looks like to put your faith in science and research and the teams of people here in Illinois and beyond who are working on treatments and vaccines to save lives. We will get to the other side of this, and that other side will be a place that appreciates the best of the before, but with a greater sense of compassion and connection. And the best part is that you are going to be the ones guiding us forward. All of you, with your creativity, your passion, and your care for others, are going to shape our future. Let me be the first to say, I can't wait to see all that you will accomplish. So now I'd like to bring up Dr. Ezike for today's medical update. Doctor?
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for your announcement, and thank you for that heartfelt message to the students who are impacted as well. As a mother of a graduating senior, I'm sure my son heard you. Thank you. With today's announcement, I imagine parents and students might be missing their teachers and friends just a little bit more. However, I know that learning will continue to take place, but it will happen via e-learning at home. The science does show that social distancing works, and I hope people remember this and take it to heart. We won't abandon all the good that we've done. Today, unfortunately, I announce our largest number of new cases in a single day at 1,842 new cases and 62 additional lives lost to COVID-19. That brings our statewide total to 27,575 COVID cases and unfortunately 1,134 lives lost. I applaud Governor Pritzker for his decision-making. He never shies away from making difficult decisions that benefit us all. Every action he takes is thoroughly thought of with the people of Illinois in mind, and we thank him for his courage. Please, for people who are experiencing illness and want to get testing, I do want to alert that we do have increased testing capacity. Go to dph.illinois.gov/COVID-19 to find sites where you can get tested. Please continue to stay home, continue washing your hands, wear a mask if you must leave. Everyone's effort is appreciated, it's noticed, your efforts have shown that they can flatten the curve. I'm so proud to be in this state and see how we have responded to this pandemic. We'll continue fighting together. We're all in Illinois. And with that, I will translate my comments into Spanish. Buenos tardes. Con el anuncio de hoy, imaginó que los padres y estudiantes podrían extrañar un poco más a sus maestros y amigos. Sin embargo, las lecciones todavía deben seguir y lo más importante, deben quedarse en casa. La ciencia muestra que el distanciamiento físico funciona y espero que la gente lo recuerda y lo tome en serio antes de abandonar todo el progreso que hemos tenido hasta ahora. Hoy, IDPH informa 1,842 casos nuevos que incluyen 62 vidas adicionales perdidas por COVID-19. Ahora tenemos 27,575 casos y 1,134 de ellos han sido muertes. Aplaudo al gobernador por las decisiones que hace cada día. Todas acciones que toma piensa en la gente de Illinois primero. Por favor, quédense en casa. El esfuerzo de todos es apreciado y notado. Estoy orgullosa de la forma en que Illinois ha respondido a esta pandemia. Sigamos luchando juntos. Gracias. And with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Carmen Ayala, Superintendent of the School Board of Education.
Thank you, Dr. Ezike, and thank you, Governor, especially for your courageous leadership today and throughout this crisis. We know that these are not easy decisions to make. Voy a repetir este mensaje en español. Our school buildings may be closed, but the hearts and the minds of our teachers and students are wide open. Since the suspension of in-person instruction when it began on March 17th, Illinois schools statewide have risen to the challenge of holistically serving students in new and in different ways. Decatur Public Schools, for example, has partnered with local radio stations to provide stories and lessons on the air. Vienna High Schools has parked its school buses equipped with Wi-Fi hotspots in strategic locations throughout Johnson County to boost internet connectivity for students at home. And the Northwest Suburban Special Education Organization has pre-recorded videos using American Sign Language to read and sign stories to students with disabilities. This pandemic has altered the fabric of how we teach, how we learn, and how we connect. But it has not shaken the core of what our schools do, and that is to take care of Illinois' children and prepare them for what is next. Our schools focus on social and emotional skills like resiliency, empathy, and adaptability for this very reason. So when the unpredictable events in life knock us down, we have the strength and the mindset to get back up. Many of Illinois families are undergoing tremendous hardship, and we are committed to doing everything that we can so that schools can continue to serve as conduits to food, technology, and resources, not just to students, but to their families, to the elderly, and to entire communities. Marquardt District 15 comes to mind. It's an elementary district west of Chicago. And we talk about the importance of making connections with our children every day. And in Marquardt, a social worker made a connection to a family to discover that in that family, they had a half a loaf of bread left, with a mother that had no resources, no transportation, 5 children that she was trying to also educate. Because of this contact with this social worker, the Marquardt District was able to deliver 5 days' worth of meals and milk for this family. That's how important the daily contact is. Taking attendance, which really means making contact with each and every student every day, is more important now than ever. And this regular engagement helps teachers gauge their students' needs, their academic, social, emotional, and technological needs. Many families also do not have sufficient access to computers or internet at home, and we're going to tackle this digital divide head-on as part of a strategic effort that will extend beyond the end of this pandemic. We will use the Illinois State Board of Education's Federal CARES Act dollars to increase access to technology and devices in our least resourced districts. And we encourage school districts to use their CARES Act funding allocations for this purpose as well. Closing the digital divide will be pivotal in fulfilling the agency's new post-pandemic strategic plan. But no matter how students are currently engaging with their schools, the Illinois State Board of Education does not expect families to try replicating their students' usual school experiences at home. We have published guidelines for how much time children should focus on purely academic work, and it ranges from as little as 30 minutes for our kindergartners to somewhere between 2 to 5 hours for our high school students. These recommendations are available on our website, isbe.net/COVID-19, and they are available in English, Spanish, Polish, and Arabic. Will students return to school totally caught up? We're not expecting them to. The Illinois State Board of Education will be releasing transition guidance to help schools address learning loss and students' social emotional needs when they return to the classrooms, whenever that is safe to do so. In addition to the Call for Calm text support line, our agency website also has a page dedicated to mental health resources with guides for how to talk to children about this public health crisis and other resources. It's at isbe.net/mental health. All our efforts are geared toward meeting our students where they are and giving them the tools and the supports they need for success. These efforts will not end even when the pandemic ends. Gracias, Gobernador, por su valiente liderazgo hoy y a lo largo de esta crisis. Sabemos que no son decisiones fáciles de tomar. Nuestros edificios escolares pueden estar cerrados, pero los corazones y las mentes de nuestros maestros y estudiantes están abiertos de par en par. Desde que se suspendió la enseñanza el 17 de marzo, las escuelas de todo el estado de Illinois han asumido el reto de servir holísticamente a los estudiantes de maneras nuevas y diferentes. Esta pandemia ha cambiado la forma como enseñamos, aprendemos y conectamos, pero no ha alterado el núcleo de lo que hacen nuestras escuelas, y esa es cuidar de los niños de Illinois y prepararlos para lo que sigue. Muchas de las familias de nuestro estado están pasando por tremendas dificultades y nos comprometemos a seguir haciendo todo lo posible para que las escuelas puedan seguir sirviendo como conductos de alimentos, tecnología y recursos no solo para los estudiantes, sino también para sus familiares, para los ancianos y para comunidades enteras. Me viene a la mente un distrito escolar, el distrito 15 de Marquardt. En este distrito escolar se encuentra al oeste de la ciudad. Un trabajador social llamó a la casa para ver cómo están los estudiantes y se encontró con una madre y con media libra de pan, con 5 hijos tratando de enseñarlos sin recursos y sin transportación. Esta trabajadora social de nuestras escuelas inmediatamente regresó a la escuela y entregó 5 días de comida y leche a esta familia. Dificultades financieras, traumas, pérdida de aprendizaje y la brecha digital. Estas son las dificultades que nuestros estudiantes están viviendo y que pesan en nuestras mentes y en nuestros corazones todos los días. Estamos desarrollando un plan de transición para ayudar a las escuelas a pensar en cómo apoyar a los estudiantes cuando regresen a los salones de clases en el otoño. Estamos anticipando el uso de los fondos federales del CARES Act para aumentar el acceso a la tecnología. Animamos a los distritos escolares a usar sus fondos también para este propósito. Planes. Recuerden hace un par de meses cuando todos teníamos planes sobre cómo sería este año, cuando los viajes al trabajo y los horarios de las campanas nos ayudaron a planear nuestros días. Confío en nuestros líderes, como los que están aquí hoy, en las escuelas. Confío en las maestras, los maestros, sobre todo el Estado, que venceremos esta tormenta juntos. I would like to introduce Dr. Donna Leek, Vice Chair of the Illinois State Board of Education, who is with us today as a current district superintendent.
Thank you, Dr. Ayala, and thank you to Governor Pritzker for your leadership. It is an honor to be here today to represent the students, families, teachers, staff, administrators, and board members that make up Community Consolidated Schools District 168 in Sauk Village, Illinois. I am proud, like so many other superintendents, of each and every staff member and student who has stepped up during this global pandemic. Community engagement has been key to the success of remote learning days in our district. I was absolutely blown away by the number of community members that participated in our Facebook Live community coffee that I recently hosted. Through this connection, I learned more about the fact that our families in our community needed additional social and emotional supports. Our team put our heads together and developed a variety of opportunities to care for our community during this unprecedented time. Students, families, they're experiencing loss and grief right now. Their lives have been completely upended, and schools are a valuable resource to help our families and students cope with this sudden transition to the unknown. In our district, our teachers are hosting virtual community circles each morning in order to allow their students support in social emotional needs, in addition to continuity in education. Our social workers and our counselors are available for students and their families to reach out for assistance at any time. We've had more than 400 of our students participate in a virtual lunch just to talk about what's going on. We're supporting student learning utilizing technology and, when needed, paper packets, in particular individualized instruction for those who need it most. Our students are staying engaged throughout the school day through the use of Google Hangout, Zoom. We're using Classroom Dojo and Powered by Action Network. Our special education teachers and teachers' aides are ensuring that the required minutes for our students with special needs are being met through technology. I am so proud, like every other superintendent in this state, I'm so proud of our staff for rising to this occasion and finding new and creative ways to keep our students engaged. But not only are we supporting our students in terms of mental, emotional, and academic, but also nutrition. Our area has provided tens of thousands of meals to families across our district. Each day we work to ensure that our students have breakfast and a hot lunch. And in addition, we have partnerships across the village to ensure that our families and seniors' needs are met. Throughout this process, I have spent time collaborating with my fellow superintendents. We share thoughts, ideas, and provide support to one another as we navigate through this uncharted water. We are all prepared to meet the demands that our communities will have to face with today's announcement, and we will continue to find creative and innovative solutions to support our families into this new future. And now I would like to turn it back over to Governor Pritzker for questions. Thank you.
Reporters in the room, we're going to do one question each. Mary Ann's got a few from the political reporters in town, so she's going to get 3.
Great. Thank
Governor,
you very much. Yes.
Thank you. First of all, on the $569 million, who will oversee that? Where will that money go? How will it be fairly distributed? Does that include Chicago and everywhere else? And if I can combine a question in one, Chicago, you're telling everybody no school, not just, it's public, private, the whole shebang.
That's correct. Yeah. So the $569 million is defined in the CARES Act. A portion of it goes directly to schools, and then a portion of it is defined by ISB and what the needs are across the state. So those decisions will get made about ISB's portion of it based upon the needs of our school districts.
We've had some questions from some of my coworkers. Are you tracking the cases of positive cases of coronavirus among health workers, healthcare workers? Do you know those numbers here in Illinois?
Good afternoon, and thank you for listening again today. As of 2 p.m. today, there have been 5,283 positive cases of COVID-19 in Missouri, including 165 deaths. Over 2,000 Missourians have been tested at this time. Yesterday, I announced that the Stay Home Missouri order is extended through May the 3rd. We are seeing signs in the data that Missouri is beginning to slow the course of COVID-19. We are seeing improvements across the state. If good social distancing continues, we will reopen the economy and get Missouri back to work. Between now and May the 4th, we will continue to monitor the situation and work with Missouri hospitals, healthcare providers, public health experts, business leaders, and state departments to develop a data-driven plan. We also will be reaching out to the business community, as well as local and city government, to put plans in place for May the 4th and begin the first phase of reopening Missouri. To recap from yesterday, our Show Me Strong Recovery Plan will have 2 initial phases, which are intended to protect those most at risk of exposure to COVID-19 and return Missouri to a new normal. First, protect healthcare workers, first responders, and other direct care workers so that our most vulnerable citizens have access to the care they need. Second, strategically reopen businesses supported by testing data and insights and from employers and employees. Additionally, our Show Me Strong recovery plan rests on 4 essential pillars. Rapidly expand testing capacity. Expand our reserves of PPE. Continue to monitor and, if necessary, expand hospital and healthcare system capacity. Improve our ability to predict potential outbreaks using Missouri's public health data. This approach combines a number of sources on Missouri-specific data and will allow us to evaluate the situation locally. As we continue to develop this plan and move into the recovery phase of COVID-19, the Missouri Department of Economic Development will play a major role. The department has already been active throughout our COVID-19 response, and we're extremely grateful for their efforts to assist Missouri businesses and workers as much as possible during these challenging times. Today, Director Dixon is here with us today, and he's going to share some ideas and some information on the economic recovery plan that's going to be presented before the state. Director?
Thank you, Governor. And thank you for showing the path forward towards economic recovery. You know, extending the stay-at-home order was definitely the right thing to do, and the plan that you announced yesterday allows us to work towards that reopening. The plan is realistic, it's deliberate, it's data-driven, and it prioritizes the healthcare foundations that we need to return to economic activity in our state. Missouri is strong, and we will get through this. The governor's framework allows for a gradual reopening, leading to broader economic recovery. Right now, we are in that immediate response phase, and businesses and citizens across our state are availing themselves of the available resources at the federal and state level. But soon, as the governor mentioned, we'll be moving into that gradual reopening phase, driven by the healthcare data, driven by the healthcare system, as well as the other strategies that the governor laid out. These are ways that allow our economy to reopen without jeopardizing our healthcare objectives. Beyond that, though, we need to focus on returning to the levels that we were before, as well as building our economy stronger than it was even then. Our economic recovery plans will focus on the diversity of our state. It will focus on our people, focus on our businesses, focus on our communities, focus on our infrastructure, among many other components of our economic health. I'll tell you, it's going to ebb and flow. It won't be a light switch turning back everything on at once, but it is going to be based on sound healthcare-driven strategies that lead to economic growth and economic development. Our economy was strong before this, and we will be strong again. And I thank the governor for creating that pathway for us to move forward. I also wanted to highlight a couple of, frankly, positive things that have been happening in our state right now, despite the ongoing pandemic, specifically related to the assistance that our businesses have received from the federal government. You know, early on in this crisis, Governor Parson ensured that the entire state of Missouri would be eligible for small business administration programs, and that is now paying off. As a result of that, 46,000 Missouri small businesses and nonprofit organizations have been approved for the SBA's Paycheck Protection Program. We actually rank number 10 in the entire country for the number of businesses that have been approved. All told, these businesses were approved for more than $7.5 billion in our state. That puts us at number 15 of all states in the country for the total number of dollars approved to assist Missouri businesses. This program, of course, provides a forgivable loan designed for small businesses to help keep their workers on the payroll. Now, yesterday, the SBA announced that there is no additional funding available, having subscribed the full $350 billion across the country. But it shows the tremendous need, and thanks to the governor's early action on this, again, 46,000 some odd Missouri businesses and nonprofits were able to get some help. But I also want to thank Missouri's bankers. It was their hard work. I know many of them were working around the clock, long nights, long weekend hours to get these loans processed. And on behalf of, again, 46,000 Missouri businesses and their employees, we thank you. There are also some job opportunities that are available right now in a variety of businesses across the state, both in the healthcare field as well as in other industries that are critical to the response effort. And I would encourage anybody that is interested in taking a job in one of those industries to please look at our website at MissouriOneStart.com. Missouri One Start, all of those words are spelled out, .com, where you can learn more about those jobs and apply for them directly. Finally, I wanted to highlight a key infrastructure need that our state has. And as the challenges that we face today demonstrate probably more so than ever before the importance of reliable and fast internet access for our entire state. It's important to so many things in our life today. It was important before this started, and it's important tomorrow as well. But I'm proud that today we were able to announce more than $3 million in state broadband grant funding to expand internet service to 4,000 Missouri businesses, farms, and homes across our state. And I want to thank the broadband and telecom companies who are offering their services, discounts, waivers, fees, and other assistance to Missourians during the course of this pandemic. You can find out more about those resources on the state's COVID-19 resource page. And finally, as the governor mentioned, so many Missouri businesses have stepped up to the challenge right now to help produce and source that so important PPE medical equipment, and we thank them for the role that they're playing in our response effort. Missouri businesses are the arsenal in this war, and we need them now more than ever. I again want to thank the private sector. I want to provide some encouragement to Missouri communities and citizens that we are moving into the gradual reopening phase here, and we look forward to working together with you and all of our communities to build Missouri strong again. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Dixon. It's very gracious of you to give me credit for what we were able to do early on, but the credit goes to a lot of people that work here at the governor's office. I have some incredible people that work here, some incredible directors every day that do their job, and to be surrounded with those kind of people every day at a crisis situation is something all Missouri should be proud of. We got dedicated people here, and I just appreciate all the hard work they've been doing for the last 45 days here in the state of Missouri. Director Carson's also with us today. I want her to give us a little update on PPE. Sandy?
Thank you, Governor, and I want to say a special thank you to Director Dixon and to those Missouri businesses who've stepped up to assist with the PPE. We know that PPE is the greatest need that we have for our first responders and especially those on the front lines, and we want to keep them safe as they continue to provide care for Missourians. In the last couple of days, our state warehouse has received more than 250,000 N95 respirator masks, and distribution of those masks continues today. The team, which is comprised of SEMA, MoDOT, Department of Health and Senior Services, as well as the Division of Fire Safety, continue to put PPE out as fast as we can. Later today, we expect to receive 12 more pallets of face shields and 8 pallets of medical gowns, and we will work to get that into the hands of those that need it most as quick as we can. We're always expediting the delivery of PPE because it protects our firefighters, our law enforcement officers, EMS, healthcare providers, and all of those who are risking their own safety to protect others. That remains our #1 concern. Now I'd like to update you on a situation that I first announced on Monday, the state's recall of 48,000 KN95 masks that did not meet the standards designed to protect our first responders and medical professionals. As I said on Wednesday, I'm limited in what I can say due to potential litigation. But I do want to confirm, for some of you who have been asking questions, some of these answers that I can give. The state ordered and purchased KN95 respirators from a total of 3 vendors. In the first case, the state ordered a total of 360,000 KN95 masks at a total price of $1.1 million. The state received 88,630 of those masks, and the vendor agreed to refund the full amount and picked up those items unused from the warehouse today. In the second case, the state ordered a total of 5 million N95 respirator masks at a total price of more than $16.5 million. The state paid 50% of that total in advance. That was more than $8.25 million. The vendor had not delivered any of those masks and agreed to cancel the order and return the full advance payment of over $8.25 million to the state, which was accomplished on Wednesday. In the third case, the state ordered over 3.9 million KN95 respirator masks at a total price of more than $16.5 million. The state paid 50% of that total in advance. That was more than $8.25 million. In this case, the state received almost 101,000 of those masks, and the vendor has declined to refund the $8.25 million that was advanced at this time. As I discussed, we will do everything in our power to recoup the money which went towards the masks that were not up to the standards and did not provide the protection our first responders and medical professionals deserve for the high-risk work they are performing. We will continue our efforts to get them quality PPE. I also have an update on the Missouri National Guard's efforts. There are now about 375 Missouri National Guard soldiers and airmen assisting our state and federal partners in the COVID-19 response. Guard members are staffing the alternate healthcare site in Florissant. They're continuing to assess other potential alternate care sites across the state. They're providing rush transportation of PPE when necessary, and they will be assisting the St. Louis County Coroner, if necessary, at a temporary morgue facility that the county has established. All of those are assisted by members of the DMAT and DMORT teams. Capitol Police are preparing for the return of legislators to the Capitol. They're ensuring there's sufficient PPE for all their officers. They're making sure all entrances will be regularly cleaned and disinfected. They're making sure 6-foot spacing markers at Capitol entrances are clear and in place. And they're also making sure visitors to the Capitol without badges will be going to the south carriage entrance. And across our state, we have troopers working the highways every day, making sure Missourians are safe. And what our troopers are seeing is an example of what we see every day, but they're seeing more dangerous driving and higher speeds. And we would ask that everyone slow down and be safe on our roadways. Our entire DPS team is working to help protect Missourians and support our first responders and medical professionals. We'll keep doing that with professionalism and enthusiasm for as long as it takes. We thank all those who are serving, and we wish you much health and safety as you continue your service. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Carson. I also want to say thank you for catching that. Making sure we recalled those masks to make sure people were safe out there. You and your department for catching that and getting that recall on it. And I assure you, we've talked to the Attorney General's office, and we're going to be, I'm encouraging him to put this as a top priority for the people of the state of Missouri on that. So thank you again for what you're doing on that. Let's, Kelly, let's go to questions.
All right, thank you, Governor. The first question is from Joe Gamm, Jefferson City News Tribune. Governor, to open the state back up for business, the state is going to have to greatly expand testing. Yet the University of Missouri Healthcare announced today that it is scaling back its drive-through testing site. Are we not going to need thousands more tests daily, which expanded capacity to conduct the tests before we can reopen?
Yeah, I can answer that. Maybe Director Williams might want to talk about that too. But yeah, we're going to expand the testing. What you're seeing a lot of mobile test sites that are starting to be closed down or not in use so much anymore is because the volume's not there. People are just not getting tested. We're going to open the criteria up somewhat next week. I think the director will be doing that. And we're going to be testing a lot more people for multiple reasons around the state to get a better idea where this state is with this. But I don't think I'd read too much into a mobile site maybe shutting down, because we're going to need that somewhere else. Because, for example, I think we continue to put mobile sites in the St. Louis area. So we're going to continue to do that. But the tests are going to expand.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Matt, KMBC. When do you practically see players returning to the field? and then fans to the stands at Kauffman Stadium and Arrowhead?
Well, I'd like to see a lot more families out there doing a lot of things across the state of Missouri as families and doing outdoors and being together. On the sports side of it, this is a sports state. I've said that before. When you look at the teams we got across the state, whether it's soccer, whether it's golf, baseball, football, hockey, you can about go down the list. Missouri's a huge sports state. But, it's going to take its course. I do believe we're going to see major league sports before this year is over, but I believe there'll be a lot of decisions to be made in that process. And I also think there'll be changes. I'm not sure that the games are going to be like they were before, but time's going to tell us on that. But I do believe we'll be back watching sports by the end of the year.
All right, thank you, Governor. This question is from Jeff Bernthal, Nexstar. Which businesses that are currently closed do you envision opening on May 4th?
Well, I would hope the majority of the business that are closed now will be open back up. I think there will be some things such as social distancing will be implemented in those businesses. But I think the whole idea of kind of opening up on the 4th is to start that process of opening businesses up all the way from the small business to the big businesses. Again, we're just going to have to make social distancing a priority, and we're going to have to stay with that for a while to get that done. But hopefully we're going to get the majority of the businesses open.
All right, Governor, this is the final question for you today. This is from a constituent, Anna Catron. I'm just curious as to when all the non-essential shopping will stop. I work in Menards, and we are continually packed daily, and about 90% of the customers are either shopping for non-essentials or just walking around for something to do. To top that off, we've had several people coming in from Kansas, Jeff City, etc. Why is this being allowed instead of the stay-home order being followed or enforced? Well,
the order should be followed, and it should be enforced. So if they're allowing a lot of people in that business shouldn't be there, that should be reported, and action should be taken on that. I think it's one of the things we talked about early on. What I think when we had, quote, essential businesses, early on, we started funneling people to those businesses and actually created a worse problem. But the second order I did was to eliminate that. So so many people should be allowed in that business. So the best thing to do is report that to your local levels. And if that don't work, you need to report it to the Department of Health here on the state level.
All right, thank you, Governor. These next questions for Director Karsten. I just have a couple for you, and you've talked about these a little bit in your statement a while ago, but this one is from Brian Hosworth, MissouriNet. You announced last week that the state is proceeding with its first alternate care site to assist hospitals in the St. Louis region, and that a Florissant Hotel is being converted into the care facility. Can you talk about the current status of that project? Are there any patients?
Yes, and thank you for the question. Again, keep in mind why this site was constructed, and that was to assist the hospitals in the St. Louis area. And today there are 3 patients at this alternate care site being cared for by the medical group from the 139th Missouri Air Wing, and also supported by SEMA's Disaster Medical Assistance Team.
Okay. One last one. This is a follow-up in regards to those KN95 masks from David Lieb, AP. Can you talk about from which vendors did Missouri purchase those 48,000 defective KN95 masks?
No, I'm not going to release the vendor names today. There will be plenty of time for that at some point in time, but we are still learning a lot of information about the products coming in from China, and as we learn more information, we'll certainly provide that, and which is what I've done today. So thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Dr. Williams? I have 2 questions for you. One is from David Lieb, AP. The state has said previously that a health department test determined that some KN95 masks did not meet standards. Which standards precisely did the masks not meet?
David, thank you. The specifically is that the masks have to have the ability to seal and to not let the virus be of a construction that the virus cannot enter through the mask, and that was not felt to be the case. And so, as Director Karsten and the Governor said, give them all the credit for catching that and getting them recalled so that those first responders who were depending on those would not suffer any consequences.
Okay, and the final question for today is from Ashley Bird, Learfield. Director Williams, the President's guidelines for states to ease stay-at-home orders recommends a decline in documented cases for 14 days. Hospitals can treat all patients without crisis care, and a robust testing program in place, including antibody testing for at-risk healthcare workers. Is that your measure, and how far away is Missouri for universal testing?
Ashley, thank you. And I just want to say parenthetically, a thank you to all those Missourians who have helped us bend the curve. We're not there yet, but the cases that came back today were less than 200 new cases. So certainly incredibly thankful for those people who don't get infected. And I'll be on a call tomorrow with all the Missouri doctors, and thank you on behalf of them. It's a great gift that you're giving them, that those on the front lines, whether they're sheriffs or police or EMS, are not exposed to the virus. And so just want to thank you for that. Specifically to your question, as the governor has said, we work very closely with our federal partners for the first part of your question, but we're using Missouri data, and that incredibly allows us to be very granular or very specific as we make decisions, which you've seen in the decision yesterday and the decisions you'll continue to see. Our testing incredibly helps us to do that. As the governor says, we have a capacity now to do about 7,000 tests a day. And so we will continue to do that testing, but he also said that as we get out of flu season and there are not as many people walking around with coughs and fevers, we'll change the guidelines for that testing, and that will guide further policy. And also, I think, give people confidence that, that they can re-engage in the community. We also look, to your point, very closely at surge capacity. And so we want to just make sure that we have plenty of hospital beds. We've been very fortunate throughout the state. As I've said many times, we have about 2,100 ventilators, and we have about 1,100 available. To your last question about antibody testing, we will not use universal antibody testing. And again, the FDA test that we're looking at is just coming on board today. So it'll take us a while to do that. But we're going to use that very strategically and very purposely, as I've said before, to identify those people who may think they were exposed but don't know. And so that'll give them some confidence. We're also going to use it to help our first responders so that they will know as they re-engage with patients whether they have immunity. And the final is we use it to look at population areas, geographic or communities or nursing homes, to see what our prevalence is. And that very data-driven, very scientific, helps us decide policy. The test we have can do 175 an hour, so we can do a lot of antibody testing. We will validate that in the next 2 weeks or so, push it out, and then commercial labs will do that. So if you say universal, meaning everybody, we don't think that would be the best use of resources, but we will certainly be doing a lot of antibody testing as we move down the road. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Governor?
Thank you. Before I close, one thing I want to say, a lot of information's come out of here this week about changes, I know a lot of people are going to be excited about May the 4th getting here. I think it's a light that we all want to focus on right now. But I want to remind everyone, be patient. Be patient as we go through the next couple of weeks. Do what you need to do. Stay home when you can stay at home. It really does matter what's going to happen in the state of Missouri in these next couple of weeks. And once that date comes in here, on May the 4th, you're going to have to be patient again, because things will not go back to normal just like we flip a light switch on. It's going to take time. But the most important thing I can tell you to exercise in the next couple of weeks is be patient, do what you're being asked to do, because what you are doing is working. We just need to do more of that in the next couple of weeks. So I want to thank all Missourians, again, for their efforts and sacrifice during this difficult time for our state. No matter how long it takes, I assure you we will recover from this and come back better than before. I look forward to seeing Missourians safe, healthy, and back to work. Thank you, and God bless.